In the previous section of this tutorial, we had created a simple dice, and we had that then working on our emulator phone. So that it has an image that acts as a button. When we press the button, it then will show us a random number between 1 and 6. And we had made some improvements to the interface by hiding away the list of numbers and adjusting some of the features of what appears on screen. What we're now going to do is we are going to improve this by making a more graphical dice. And it would make sense at this point to save the project as a different milestone. So I'm going to say save project as, and we had simple dice. Instead of simple dice copy, I'm going to make this one and call it graphical dice. So I've still got my original simple dice project, but I now have a copy that I can change without worrying about affecting the original. Okay, so back to our instructions. And what it says is that in the media tab, we should use the upload button to upload a set of images for the dice face. So I'm going to go ahead back to AppInventor. When we uploaded 3D dice to the button, it automatically put it into the media drawer or the media tab here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload a bunch of other graphical files. Notice that all of these files are using the same dimensions, so they're not just a random collection of heights and widths, and that means that they should fit nicely into the button that's been provided for them. Notice also that they've got the exact same name as the number that we represent. So this is 1.jpg, and it's got the number 1 on it. I'm going to upload that first of all. And then continue, choose file 2, open and upload, and so on. Unfortunately, I don't think there's a way of choosing more than one file to upload at a time. You have to upload them all individually. But we should have numbers 1 to 6, all with a .jpeg extension. We can use any JPEGs, GIFs, or PNGs, but for the code we're about to use to work, it helps if they're all exactly the same type of image. It makes the code that we use much simpler to deal with. Okay, so we have our images loaded up. They're all the same height and width, and they're all named based on the list of choices that the program can make. What we're now going to do is to make a copy of the button click and then make some changes to that. So there are two skills here that you may not have used before. One of them is to duplicate a block of code. So here's my button result click. I can right click on that and choose duplicate. And immediately I get an error state because we can't have two handlers with the same name. Now to deal with that, I'm just going to disable my original block. So highlight the handler, disable block, and that becomes grayed out or not solid color. What I'm going to do now is instead of the text appearing with a random element, I want the image to have a random picture. And I can't just choose number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 now. What I have to do is pick the correct image. So I'm going to go to text and I'm going to put a join in. And I'm going to join the names that we have already, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, onto a .jpeg extension. So in here, I'm putting .jpg, which is exactly the same name as the files that I uploaded. And what we should now see is that on our phone, if I click now, I've now got the number 6 picture has appeared. Click again, the number 5 again, number 4, number 6. So each time I'm clicking, I'm getting a different image appearing here as a result of this button result. Now, one of the things that you might like to do here is to go back to the designer and possibly go to media, and you have a sound player here. So if we look at player allows us to put a fully controllable player on. Sound just plays a file, best for short clips. So we could download a sound effect from the internet of a dice rolling, and that could then accompany the actual playing of the change of graphics. I'll leave that to you if you want to do that as an extension. Okay, so we have our improved code, and that all seems to be working nicely. However, one thing that we could do, rather than put in some sound, we could perhaps, if we have a real phone, we could test out the accelerometer and whether it detects us shaking the phone. So at the moment, our phone is maybe not entirely as attractive as we would like it to be. This text on the screen is distracting. We've got this extra white space here that's not really up to much. So we could remove the text from the button, add it as a label below, and we're going to add an accelerometer to our application. So back here, the accelerometer is a sensor, and basically what it does is it lets you see when the phone is moving in different directions. If I drop it on here, it doesn't appear as visible on screen. It's not a visible component. It's something that's built inside the phone. There's only one within the phone, so I'm only going to leave that as accelerometer sensor 1. Don't need to rename it. It is enabled, which is necessary. And so I'm then going to go to blocks, and I can see that I could look at the direction that I'm moving the phone in, or I can just detect the phone is shaking. So when accelerometer 1 is shaking, then I'm going to duplicate that block of code and I'm going to put it in there. So you can see now why we said to click or to shake the phone to roll the dice. Now, unfortunately, I don't think we've got a way of testing that on an emulator phone. If I shake that about, I think it will just pop out the side of the screen. If you're testing this on a Mac, you might have the option of shaking the phone to see whether it works. And certainly if you upload it to an Android phone, then you should have a chance to see that working. And that is us. We have done most of what we intended to do there. The last thing that we can have a look at then is where we're going next. And that is for you to create an app without any instructions from the teacher. You have to make an app that looks good and solves a particular problem. That problem is it can play you at rock, paper, scissors. So it's going to make random choices from these and then show its result on screen. So that would be a rock, paper, scissors app. You could make a sorting hat for Harry Potter. So you'd give it a student's name, and then it will tell you which house that student belongs to. Or you can create a magic 8-ball. So the magic 8-ball is a pseudo-mystical predictor of the future, and it gives you advice when you ask it a question. So you could ask it, which of these apps should I do, or should I do the rock, paper, scissors app as my assessment? And you'd roll the magic 8 ball, and it would come up with something mystical like, only time will tell. So have a think about how you will approach those. You need to think about the graphics that you're going to use. You need to think about the layout. You need to think about the buttons and the way it works. Will you include shaking and accelerometers? Will you include sound clips in how the app works? This is all part of your design to make a good looking and effective